The Hughes, Part 2, Part 1 down below. H asked me to leave. He wanted some space and he kept our son. I am staying with mutual friends. At this point, I don't even know what to speak about. I'm out of our home, trying to give H the space he needs. He doesn't want me to return after the holiday break. I have made arrangements to stay nearby. I am crushed and devastated without my son, and H, I know my actions haven't shown that. But how do I get time to demonstrate new actions? It may be that I am still in the fog and would start rationalizing contact in a week or two. All I know for certain is that after D-Day 1 I still felt confused, split whatever regarding other man, and now I don't feel that. I don't wonder where he is or if he's okay. I want to be home with my family, taking care of them, bringing H soup and his favorite movies, and wrapping him up in the biggest blanket in the house and just trying to love him the way I should have all these past months. I want to just be there for him, to love away the hurt, insecurity, and total emasculation I put him through. I have been an absolutely crappy excuse for a human being. I squandered everything that had any importance in my life. I don't care about the house, the things, a cushy life. I care about the man who made me the center of his world. I would give anything to go back and undo it. But I can't. I will go forward, because that's what we do as people. And people can undo change. Or there would never be any R or any other relationships for WS after D. I am trying to execute actions that match my words. I let him take the lead. I left when he asked. I am texting him my location and who I am with. I have been in constant contact with my family and mutual friends. I have not made any effort, after my initial apology, which I can see how that would be viewed as a mistake, to reach the people who enabled this. I am looking for a new job. I am giving up my other jobs that I am not contractually obligated to at this point. I will move where H goes to keep up what I hope will be joint custody, or at least frequent visitation with my son. I don't care what it takes. People can continue bashing. I'm sure it feels good to have an outlet for the pain and betrayal you went through. I will keep looking for useful knowledge, tips, and insight between all of the rest. You can't see me, don't really know me, and I can never fully communicate what we are going through. Believe what you want about me. Tell my husband I am heartless, narcissistic. B. Tell him our son needs a paternity test. I know who I am and what I have done. I can never outlive the pain I see on the face of the man I have loved for most of my life. Husband responds. She punished herself. I wasn't going to post in her thread, but who cares now? D-Day 3 today. Nay, I suspect an E between WW and other man. Mid-May, ruined romantic evening, confrontation about possible a denied by WW. I don't think of him romantically. I would never do that to you. May 22nd, other man kisses WW. She doesn't stop him. May 29th, giving him a good time in her office. June 1st, WW and I leave for NYC. Mid-June, texting, graphic Facebook messages. Early July, dirty webcams. July 17th, first day back from NYC. WW gives OM a good time at his seedy crappy house. July 17th, night D-Day number 1, BGF slips me a Facebook account on a post-it note. I log in and confirm an affair, the extent of which is not fully revealed until tonight or ever. Confrontation and sheer anguish. July 20th, R starts with WW calling to set up MC, seems genuinely remorseful. Early mid-sept, OM is seen walking down the street as we're driving to MC. Pretty big trigger for me. I later find out that WW felt torn, with worry for him, lust, love, and guilt. I would say this is the day the R became false. I knew she was not 100% with me then. Late Sept, WW breaks NC by visiting other man at the drive-thru and drops off books to ease his boredom. They begin Skyping, using her office computer. Early Oct, WW begins having intercourse with other man, perhaps 6 times over the next month. October 31st, other man seen at a town parade. Massive trigger for me. WW seems distant, or like a deer in headlights. She doesn't appear to make eye contact. Nov. 2. WW meets with other man with help of students. They have intercourse one last time. Continued Skyping. Nov. 12 or 14. WW calls me crying from her office, saying she wants me to know she wants to work on us. I think she sensed that I was giving up or starting to look to greener pasture. She points me to some threads on this forum, even one where the WW ended up in D, but with good tips for R. Nov. 17. D-Day number 2. BGF sends me a message and I discover that WW had seen other man again when she was out of town. WW denies bonding, only kissing. Nov. 18. WW confesses to her parents. After they urge her to stop lying, she reveals that she had been breaking NC since Sept. I think this is the only thing she willingly divulged. I would never have found out, I'm sure, if she hadn't told me. It was obviously a severe blow. I make my first post here. Nov. 21 D-Day #3. After a phone call to the right people, I get some truth. Bonding more than once. Giving him a good time in office. Skyping. WW calls to talk to son via FaceTime. I asked if she had anything else to tell me about the affair. She said no. I got her to admit that she had Skyped with CJ in the last 4 months. I then know everything else I heard from my sources is 100% true. I tell her I already know the answers and to answer truthfully. I ask her a series of questions. How many times did you have slept together? Where? The time you kissed before NYC, that wasn't it, was it? I rant at her on the phone for about 3 minutes. We call her parents, together, and she tells them everything I learned tonight. I am devastated to the core. Words cannot express. I feel filthy and am getting tested. I think that phase of the affair ran its course, and they both knew it. He was moving to a new school in town. She was starting to realize she'd jeopardized her real life and commitments. I really honestly think she was trying to relive and recreate our early relationship with him, carefree, bohemian, love, bonding. She once said early in False R that he reminded me of you. My response was, that's something you say when the person reminded of is dead or gone. That last night out of town was their moment to really be alone. I know they would have continued to talk via Skype and see each other for pa when possible. Almost no one, certainly not people like them, cuts cold turkey with a connection that's strong, although he might have been able to do it. No one will know if he felt love. I'm not sure she ever got anything but comforting words, attention, and entertainment. She certainly loved him. I may be wrong and she can correct me. I had more questions, and she's been willing to answer. I'd really like to see her post the latest account of what really happened, but I haven't talked about this forum since last night and I don't know if she's visited again, or even will. She's coming back home tonight. We are going to have the sit-down. She tells everything talk, without interruption. Depending on my anger, I may tell her to leave, as she has a place to stay nearby. She preaches to her students about standing up, owning up to your mistakes, growing as a person, kicking addictions, summoning the courage to face the music, facing your fears, accepting consequences, doing the right thing. I am with many others, particularly students that know this happened to me, who wonder if she can travel the high road she points out to others on an almost daily basis. Wife responds, we are proceeding toward divorce. BH loves me, but I am not good for him at this time. Massive changes in my communication, selfishness, fear, and focus need to happen before I can be a good parent, let alone a good wife, or even a not completely awful wife. He is exceptionally generous to allow me to stay in the house with our son, and we are going to have a lot of work in front of us as we deal with my first post here on Sunday. I wanted ideas for how to show him I was changing. Honestly, I don't know what my hopes are now with this post. I just need to be accountable to someone, and you all are remarkably skilled at calling me on my bull crap. My son needs a mother, not whatever it is I have become. My BH needs a supportive co-parent and collaborative D partner. My heart wants to hope that this is not the end for us, but there is not even the tiniest reason I can give him to even consider that possibility. I have been a lying cake eater. My relationship with OM is done, so I am ready to recommit to BH. It's unforgivable, and he deserves far more than I have given him. I love my son, and despite my actions, I actually do love my BH. It's certainly too little, too late there, but for my son's future, I need help. I don't mean to be a drama queen. I don't know how else to express myself. Our life is totally crap. I know the general consensus is that I must have had multiple affairs, that our son is not BH's. I will say the same thing I said in my previous thread before I deleted it. Change has to start somewhere. I was not always this person. BH and I were truly happy and loved each other. I don't think that has gone away, but I have completely degraded that. Am I desperate? Yes. Am I panicked? Yes. Not because of the life change I am facing, but because I never meant to lose sight of my love for BH. I don't know if every WS wants the opportunity to change, wishes for a time machine, whatever, but I do. Not for me, not for H at this point, although I certainly hope he will see the true me over the next few months and not the monster I have been the last 6 months. But for my son, I did not value my marriage. I am staying at my current job through the contract year. I will be moving wherever H and my son move to maintain frequent contact. Whatever job I end up with will have to do. I will not disappear from my son's life because I ruined the relationship with his father. I want him to heal more than anything. I talked for hours last night, taking him through the affair timeline. I know details are important. We discussed positions, places, times, thoughts, feelings. I'm totally empty. I never said my love was pure. It was battered and damaged, and minuscule. It was leftover, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Do I cry for myself? Yes, and for my son, and for my BH. If I were to be allowed the opportunity to change within this relationship, because clearly, I'm going to work on changing outside of it. It's obvious that our lives are never again about what H can do for me. So how can I possibly be trying to hold on to that? I don't think my writing style reflects my emotions, expression very well. I'm not clinical, but it is ingrained in me to write with good grammar, punctuation. I did love OM. I have said that since D-Day number 1 to BH. I have spent hours, days over the last 4 months reading about being in love with more than one person, questioning my true feelings for both, trying to sort out this whole mess. Comment. The reality a lot of women need to realize is that it is fairly easy to get a younger guy to sleep with you, provided you've kept yourself in good shape and act and dress younger than your age. And if you're married and willing to cheat, you become a trophy if the guy is sleazy enough. If you're vain enough, the attention will make you feel good and will override whatever conscience you have. But the reality is, in most cases you are just an easy lay, maybe even a sugar mommy. But the older cheaters should not mistake the fact that the young guys are willing to stick their penis in your vagina, or your mouth, or any other orifice for everlasting true love. Maybe you finally realize that, but it is too late. OP responds, since I returned home and confessed to BH, a lot has happened. My family came to town to check on us. My BH asked me to move out of our home, and I did today. Before I left, I wrote 5 NC letters using the sample someone posted for me. 1 for other man, 1 for each of his parents, and 1 for each of the friends who enabled us earlier this month. I shared Skype accounts with BH, and he messaged other man on them before changing my passwords so I have no access. I had already removed the programs from my phone and iPad last Friday. I saw my doctor for a full STD screen to set BH's mind at ease and inquired about the process for a paternity test. I am trying to live change, not talk about it. We have an appointment with our attorney on Monday, and I have a counseling session on Friday. I really appreciate the assignments, advice given, and will continue working on that. I deleted my FB account on Monday of this week and have decided to adopt a no technology policy in my home. H is going to allow me to spend evenings after school with our son and help put him to bed each night. I don't want to squander any of that time not being present with the two of them. I'm sure it is too soon to know how I am doing regarding separating the other man from my thoughts, feelings, but I know I don't feel as I did 4 months ago when it ended the first time. I also called today and resigned from my summer job in NYC, so there's the beginning of my actions. My emotions were running wild and I wasn't thinking about anything except the overwhelming negativity I expected to encounter. I know this forum is mostly BS. I chose it because most of the rest I found were religious in nature, and H and I are not. My intentions in creating my first post were more honest than the details I provided. Thank you again to those who are sticking with me, despite who I've been. Whether I am married or divorced, I know this will be valuable to my future as a mom and a person, and hopefully, a wife. A few things I want to address, without trying to figure out how to multi-quote. 1. I am no longer with my lover because I have never been able to picture a future with him, not like with my BH. And it's not a future like having a house, car, vacations. It's being buried next to him. It's sitting by his side at our son's wedding. It's snuggling into one of his old t-shirts to sleep. Romanticism. Maybe. I can't even tell right now. 2. There is a misunderstanding somehow that I am not seeking psychological help. I have been seeing and lying to a therapist since July. While I hid details of the continued affair, I have legitimately been talking about other issues, and I have an appointment this Friday. I hope now that everything is out, I can make more progress with that. 3. All the goodbyes initiated were always by me. Each time I really thought we could be done, but we've been so important to each other that how could we not be friends, etc., etc. It was so stupid. This whole thing has been so stupid. It's really hard for me to look at what the hell I was thinking, because it's so muddled together with trying to get out and then falling back in, and literally there would be days that were H days versus other man days. I don't know if it was like a switch or how to describe it. Maybe some days I just had more resolve than others. 4. I definitely feel like my what the hell moment happened on Wednesday, when H asked me a simple question and I lied before I could even stop my mouth. The part of my brain that doesn't want to completely self-destruct was so horrified and just too slow to overcome the habit of lying in that moment. I don't even know how to begin to describe my thoughts, feelings since then. And it's worse because I feel like I can't trust any of my feelings or thoughts to be accurate, true. 5. There's a lot of discussion on my BH's thread about condoms and whether I went on the pill for other man. My words are worthless, but I will simply say this. I pursued the prescription before other man and I had ever begun PA, and before I was aware there was an EA. BH and I had been trying for another baby for several months without luck, and I knew our relationship had been rocky. He asked about my involvement with other man and I was surprised and concerned that he felt that way. As stupid, unbelievable, or fake as it may sound, I had no idea I was in an E, and I couldn't fathom bringing a baby into a less than happy marriage. I knew H had been stressed by life with our son. How could I chance making it worse? I could not begin taking the pill until after I arrived in NYC, because you have to wait for your next period, which was after the PA began. For many, many years in my life, the idea of an unplanned, unwanted pregnancy was the worst possible scenario I could imagine. So much so that when BH and I finally started not preventing and then finally got pregnant, I was horribly torn on how to feel about it. How can you go from thinking something would be the worst thing ever to actually wanting it? So, yes, OM and I used protections and the pill. I don't trust either to be sufficient. 6. Back to my actions. I came home today and just tried to talk with BH about anything in my head, sharing emotional transparency and thoughts with him while our son napped. I threw away the dress, underwear that I know I wore with other man, and some extra that I don't know if I did, but I purchased them over the summer, so they are associated with this. Someone on this thread said to just keep showing accountability, transparency divided by etc., even if BH says he doesn't want it. I am trying to do that, but how then can I show him I respect him at the same time and am not trying to control this? I guess I feel like we need to keep communicating about the affair, even if he says it doesn't matter and he's just done with me, because I don't want unresolved questions, emotions to taint our parenting relationship over the next 20 years. Can anyone speak to how they handled being a remorseful wayward with a betrayed that thought they were just done? The outcome of your situation, R or D, is interesting to me, but I'm not looking for anything specific. I have never slept with anyone beside other man while I have been married. My ex-BF wrote to me after being in touch with my BH recently. They have remained friends over the years. I have had a total of 5 physical partners in my life. I have behaved selfishly, cruelly, and thoughtlessly, but I don't believe I am a B. My husband is an excellent lover, and my affair had nothing to do with his physical skills. It has ended with other men. An NC letter has been written, and I have maintained that since last Sunday. We are very early in this process, but I already know it feels substantially different to me than in July. I'm sure a large part of that is due to finally being truthful with H about the situation. I know it is too early for us to have any real idea about R, but I want to be clear that I don't want a divorce. I have not treated my husband with love and respect, but I do love him and I'm so sad that it took such a terrible series of choices by me to remember that and feel it deep inside. I know he still loves me. I know that ultimately may not matter. I know that I want to do anything to heal him from the pain I caused, including divorce. I was EO in a brief fling when I was 20. I did not know it, view it as such. I was told they had been separated for some time and were close to finishing the divorce. I have no clue what that says about my moral fiber. I'm sure many people have different views on the subject. I had been in a long-term relationship, and then most recently in a physical relationship with H, but we were not ready for full commitment at that time. Many of my college friends seemed to sleep around with no real thoughts or concerns about it, and I wondered what that was like. I took that man at his word, and we had approximately 6 physical encounters over 4 or so weeks before I ended it. I want to save my marriage because I believe H and I have a true, abiding love for each other. I believe that we have many experiences we would like to share in the future. I believe that I have been a good wife in the past and my decisions of the last 6 months do not reflect the person I was and am still capable of being. I have self-esteem issues. I have identity issues. I have authority issues. I have fantasy issues. I have to work on all these things. I know there is a lot on my plate. I am working on me, but I won't neglect my husband another minute. However, it is that I can best be there for him, co-parent, wife, and hopefully friend and lover. I know many couples don't survive this. I know some do. I have faith in H and I to find the right path, whatever that may be. I have zero loyalty to other men. However, I find your scenario iffy. I think as someone who truly loves my husband, I would attempt to prevent him from putting himself in harm's way like that, legal. But yes, hypothetically, I would lie to protect H over the OM. I don't think I called other man my lover, and I certainly don't think of him that way. I was answering a fill-in-the-blank question from a previous post, using the words provided to me. Other man and I had talked about him moving before the PA even began in May. The plan for him was to go back to his hometown sometime before spring semester and potentially go back to school. The date of his moving went through several revisions, with the final decision being made in mid-October. I believe he left sometime between November 13th to 15th. Again, a synopsis. 1. Handwritten NC letter to other man. 2. Handwritten NC letters to his parents. 3. Handwritten NC to the toxic friends who enabled the affair. 4. Quit my summer job in NYC, although their response is, they want me to think about it until after the holidays. 5. Minimized my current school rehearsal schedule as best as possible to go home to my son at night. 6. Waking at dawn to drive home to be there for my son in the morning when he gets up, as I am living elsewhere at H's request. All letters were given to H to address and mail. I saw my parents last weekend and called H's mom on the Sunday previous, but will sit down and write to them today. I will also write to his dad. Already discussed arranging a paternity test with my doctor, and I have begun researching where to get a polygraph. I need to wait until I get my end-of-semester bonus check to afford either of those. My mistreatment of H definitely extends prior to the last 6 months, with those being the most heinous. Most of our issues stem from my self-centeredness and work schedule. I think the actions needed for R are the same things that he needed before: my time, my focus, my love, and to make him and his needs my center. I agree that I was consciously making bad decisions regarding the affair 6 months ago. I agree that I was making bad decisions regarding Ia prior to that. But hindsight is 2020, and I had not even heard the phrase emotional affair prior to D-Day number 1 in July, nor did I know how to recognize it. My interactions with OM were frequent and personal, but I never fantasized about him, or considered him in that manner prior to him kissing me the first time. My interactions with many other students, former students, were as frequent and personal. Perhaps I was living in denial, fog, I don't know. I am much more aware of that kind of pseudo-platonic interaction now and am guarding myself against it. I have no male confidants at this point. I am even guarded against female ones, to be honest. Love isn't enough. I know and I am accepting that what I did is unforgivable on so many levels. H and I talked about that this morning. I don't want his pain to be more prolonged than necessary, but every day is such a roller coaster right now that I'm not sure how to tell what his resolve really is. So, I keep working, I keep trying to be kind, to be present, to be loving in any way I can think of. I'm not sure how I will really know when our marriage is lost to us, but I hope I can see it clearly, because I do want to let him go with dignity and respect and love, if that is what he really needs and wants. My affair was wrong. My affair was incredibly cruel and damaging to my husband and my son. I am truly sorry for the pain I caused. I never want anyone I love to feel that way by my hand again. I am working on fixing me. I want to help my husband if I can. I honestly feel that I had been separating myself from other men since the beginning of the month. Our online conversations were almost non-existent, and the closest to an epiphany, prior to this past week, was maybe on November 9th when I realized I was feeling jealous for the first time in my life regarding my BH's communications with a female on FB text. I had been so disconnected from him that I never cared who he wrote to or what was said, and all of a sudden, I cared. I was jealous and concerned and shocked that I felt that way because I was still in contact with other men. I did message other man the following day because, truthfully, he had been my best friend and confidant for quite some time, so who else could I talk about my sudden awareness of my BH and how I was feeling? Messed up, I'm sure. I spent a couple days trying to process that new, rediscovered emotion. Came on here and just finally admitted that I didn't want other man and did want H. Called crying because I knew I'd been sabotaging our chance to heal and I wanted to get back on board and let him know that as fast as possible. Real epiphany, and maybe too late, came when H called me on Wednesday night to ask me a simple question that I knew he knew the answer to. And I lied. I lied before I could even stop my mouth to think or anything. And I just couldn't do that anymore. I totally flipped my shanty, collapsed, bawled at my friend's house, went into physical shock, shaking, shivering, wretched and hyperventilated. I am a dramatic person emotionally, but I have never physically reacted to anything like that in my life. I cannot function as the person I was. I am so deeply disgusted with what I did, and just ill all the time. I have been in my office now for 2 days, and while the computer makes me uneasy, it's not a desire to contact OM, it's like constantly staring at my shame and guilt. I don't think either of us would be satisfied in a non-physical marriage. If we are going to I want us to have a stronger, better marriage than we had before, not a shell for convenience. We can be respectful friends and co-parents outside of marriage. I want more for H and for myself than that kind of arrangement. Last fall my husband and I celebrated our 10th anniversary in the city we honeymooned in. I arranged for a weekend sitter for our son, planned the travel, flights, events, all as a surprise for him. I just told him to clear his calendar on those dates. He guessed what it was, because I'm terrible at secrets, but I knew he'd enjoy going back there and I wanted the time for us. It was the mostest time we'd had since our son was born. I'm sure there have been small things since then, taking my son to work with me some days in NYC so he could have some quiet time for museums, etc. But that is a definite, no doubt situation. I made his bed today and folded up his clothes from last night. Made and poured, prepared his morning coffee while he cooked omelets. Evenings have been up and down lately, so mostly I've just been trying to communicate when he seems amenable to that and available when he's not. Small things, but I'm trying. I absolutely would take a polygraph. In the past 9 years, we have had in the following order: 1 male student, 1 male co-worker, 1 female former student, 1 female summer house sitter, primarily in residence while we were gone, 1 male student, 2 male house sitters, 1 was other man, also in residence while we were gone. H did have say in whether they were in the house. We always discussed it in advance. I will say, however, once we started doing it and it became more common, I suppose there were less discussions and more, is this all right? Yes type conversations. Time with my son has been wonderful. I am really happy with my decision to unplug while I am in the house. Last night was the first night all week that he really watched much TV instead of just playing together because H seemed to want to talk and be close to me for a while, so I enjoyed that time with him. My next counseling appointment is tomorrow afternoon. I'm looking forward to starting from the beginning, even though it will be hard. I'm working on my general marriage post. We'll get it up when I can. There will never be a way to level the playing field. That's the basic unfairness of life after an affair. We have discussed him having a free pass. We are working on filling out our divorce papers. But the fact is, no WS can ever make up for what they have done to BS. All I can give him is my time, my energy, my love, and the fact is, he may decide at any moment he doesn't want that. Equality doesn't exist in this circumstance, I don't think. I will always be less than him if he chooses to give me an opportunity to change. Yes, that is something again that he gives me. All I can hope is that what I offer him in return for that gift shows my true commitment to our relationship and family, and that time will help with our pain, and that my affair will be one set of memories mixed in with all the other wonderful memories we have made over the last 15 years and for years to come. Here's our basic relationship history. Met at age 19, I felt an instant spark but not so much for him. We became very close friends almost immediately while he was going through his first divorce. We each dated other people for a year or two, and then became friends with benefits for about 5 months. For me, I knew I was in love with him and told myself he loved me too, but was just afraid of that relationship. We split up for a bit while he dealt with figuring out what he really felt for me. I slept with 2 other men during this break. My physical experience was very limited. I had many friends who enjoyed casual bonding, and I didn't really understand how it worked. So, I tried it. It was not for me. H and I got back together and it was different right away. Definitely finally the real relationship we had been kind of fighting, avoiding, hiding from. We were 21, dated for a while, and then moved in together for a year before I left for grad school. H proposed before I left, and we spent a year in a long-distance relationship while we planned the wedding. It was a tough year for both of us. H moved down to where I was going to school and started grad school himself. We were married later that fall, when we were 25. I finished school, started working for an opera company, while he finished his school. He got a faculty job a few hours away, so I quit my job and we packed and moved. Originally, I was going to try to work from home for 3 weeks of the month and then spend a week in the opera office. But that changed when I was offered an adjunct teaching position for one class at the same school, and then became a substitute teacher for the music program while the main instructor fought cancer. It was never my intention to teach. I have no classes or background in it. All of my degrees are performance-related. But there are no other options in my field in our area, so it was a blessing for me to have that kind of work. I think things were good for us until approximately 3 to 4 years ago. Gradually, we started doing less and less together, and became more independent in our activities and leisure time. I started working more and helping with a local community theater. H was enjoying his hobbies and art. I don't think either of us really noticed at first the distance that was growing. Before my second summer in NYC, H said that he was really unhappy in our relationship, that he felt I came home a zombie and gave all my passion to my work, theater. I was shocked and had no idea he felt that way. We discussed how to work on that. I felt it was a little bit of a two-way street at that point. There were nights when I was home that he would disappear upstairs into his art room before I could even set my stuff down from walking in the door with him. I left for my trip, and we found out a few weeks later that I was pregnant. I think that brought us together in many ways, and also hid our underlying issues in many ways at the same time. We were very close during my pregnancy, focused on this new experience and sharing it. It was a wonderful time. After our son was born, we continued our closeness. He came to work with me for the first 6 months of his life, so I could maintain breastfeeding and time with him. I am a big believer in baby wearing, and would have him with me in lectures, rehearsals, out-of-town travel, pretty much everything for the first part of his life. I think H enjoyed this too, but it was pretty overwhelming for us as a couple to have a baby at such a late point in our relationship. I know it had started a little before our son was born, but I'm also fairly certain this was a big point in losing track of each other as people and not just parents, spouses. As our son got bigger, more active, I couldn't take him with me as much. H was a big help in allowing me time for my rehearsals, etc. My parents would also travel with me sometimes so that H could have time alone and my son could see me during longer out-of-town shows. This past year has been the rockiest, obviously. I was dealing with a new colleague at work who is relatively incompetent, and therefore, a much greater amount of my time and energy was needed to accomplish the same basic level of performance that I had been used to having in my job. My sister was going through divorce, my mother was exceptionally distraught, critical of her situation, and it always turned into compliments regarding H, backhanded insults towards me. At least, that's how I started to feel. I felt I had so many people relying on me at work, students whose world was turned upside down by the staffing change, who looked to me to save their college experience, to make sure that they were getting what they needed to progress in their field. In 1 year, I had gone from being a faculty member of a nationally award-winning collegiate program to creating productions that were less than middle school level, in my estimation. It was crushing and I was desperately trying to hold together the pieces and dealing with my own sadness at the loss of my colleague. My comment, firstly because, frankly, everyone is going to suspect everything you say anyway. It will take a while to build any sort of trust, including with H, but secondly, the whole problem with your video was that it was focused on the impression you make on us, not on being truthful. So, stay away from any effort to make an impression and just say what you think. I can make better suggestions then, and also H may well recognize it and it may mean something to him.